Mexican officials confirming 2 of those Americans have now been found dead. I'm Veronica de la Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us for Scripps News Live. Let's get you right to the very latest coming into the newsroom right now. Late this morning, the governor announced that those 4 Americans from South Carolina were abducted from this white van on Friday and that they had been found. According to the Mexican government, 2 are now dead, a 3rd is wounded, a 4th is unharmed. According to the White House, gunmen ambushed all 4 shortly after they crossed the border in Brownsville, Texas. This is video of Mexico's President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador getting that phone call confirming the 2 deaths and the conditions of the other 2 Americans. Yesterday, the White House said that this group had traveled to Mexico because one person in the group was scheduled for a medical procedure with a surgeon there in Mexico. Let's get you right out to correspondent Tony Waterman, who's live for us in Austin, Texas right now. Tony, of course, this story is still developing. What more can you tell us right now?
Well, the governor of Tamaulipas is going to be holding a press conference in about 30 minutes from now. So we are expecting a lot more details to be divulged about how these individuals were ultimately tracked down and what happened to them since they were kidnapped last Friday. But it appears at this point that these kidnapped Americans were found in some sort of medical clinic. And according to CNN, this is a group of very close friends that had grown up together. They had traveled from South Carolina down through Brownsville, Texas, over to Matamoros, and they were going there because one of these friends was undergoing some sort of medical procedure. It's believed a cosmetic procedure, that she had actually undergone a similar procedure just a couple of years back. As they crossed over into Matamoros, they were attacked, and we have this very grisly graphic video showing that people are being dragged across the ground, that they were being hoisted up into the bed of a white pickup truck. And this is the moment it's believed that these individuals were kidnapped. Somebody in that area seemingly recording that on a cell phone video. The FBI thinks that this may be a case of mistaken identity, that these individuals were thought to be Haitian drug smugglers, and that was why they were attacked. But of course, this is a very early stage in this investigation, which could take weeks to unravel what exactly took place here. But the FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for any information that can lead to the arrest of the individuals that carried out this crime. But very tragic news, of course, for these people's family. 2 of them killed, 2 alive, but one of them seriously injured. It's unclear at this point if those injuries are life-threatening.
And Tony, Americans going to Mexico for medicine or for a medical procedure isn't really uncommon. We always hear about medical tourism, but what about this area? What about this specific area just over the border from Brownsville, Texas? What is it like?
Well, Matamoros and Brownsville are almost like these sister cities. You have tens of thousands of people that cross over the bridge either by foot or by car on a daily basis, and they're going for doctor's appointments. They're going to have lunch, to meet up with friends and family, to carry out basic commerce. So this is a very well-traveled road. But Matamoros itself is located in one of the most dangerous and crime-ridden states in all of Mexico. The drug cartels there control a lot of the region, and they often target these innocent civilians. They kidnap them and then they hold them for ransom. And the turf wars between these criminal organizations have been intensifying in recent years. Matamoros is inside Tamaulipas state, and this is the same state where 72 Central American migrants were found murdered back in 2010. So this is an area that is very much a dangerous place. It's one of 6 states in Mexico that the State Department warns Americans against traveling to, and the spokesperson for the State Department, Ned Price, yesterday reminding individuals that this is not a place that they should be traveling to.
We do also remind Americans about the existing travel guidance when it comes to this particular part of Mexico. The travel advisory for Tamaulipas State remains at level 4. Do not travel. We encourage Americans to heed that advice.
But even though this is a very dangerous region, again, there are tens of thousands of people that are crossing this border on a daily basis. Medical tourism is a growing industry there. Often it's much cheaper to get a medical procedure done just across the border than it is here in the United States. So this is, again, an ongoing investigation to figure out what exactly happened to these individuals. And we will be getting more information throughout the day because there are multiple press conferences that are going to be held both by Mexican officials but also American officials.
Right, Tony, you were just saying that the governor of Tamaulipas state or state officials there are going to be issuing another press conference within like the next 30 minutes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, Tony Waterman reporting from Austin, Texas. Tony, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Turning now to our continuing coverage of the train derailment and chemical spill in East Palestine, Ohio, where more than a month after that disaster, residents are frustrated. Yesterday, Governor Mike DeWine announced only half of the contaminated soil from underneath the rail tracks has been removed, along with 1,900 feet of contaminated metal railing. EPA testing also continues around the clock as residents express concerns about the town's water, soil, and air safety. But despite the federal and private resources pouring into the cleanup efforts after the chemical spill, many residents say that they are still not getting the help or the answers that they need. And that should be one of the many topics discussed Thursday when Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw testifies before the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee on Thursday. We have team coverage for you this hour from East Palestine to Washington, D.C. Congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed will be explaining what we can expect to hear during Shaw's testimony before that Senate panel Thursday. Let's go and begin right here in East Palestine with national correspondent Maura Siriani. Maura, how are the cleanup efforts going right now? We know the priority was to ensure that there are no toxins left behind after the train derailed. What do you know so far?
Veronica, that is such a big job. I think to summarize that, I would say that the cleanup process is slow but steady. You see some of it going on behind me. If you saw the live shot yesterday, this is actually a different vantage point for where we were. So this is Leslie Run Creek. It runs basically right through downtown East Palestine. There's a park right here. Children play here. There are homes all around this area. And basically Norfolk Southern set up a dam here in this creek. That was to hold back any potentially contaminated water. We mentioned those toxic chemicals. That dam was meant to hold all of that back. Well, recently, due to heavy rainfall, we had more rain last night, the dam broke. And so residents here, that was kind of a renewed concern for them. And so we heard a little bit about that yesterday and the frustration. And basically, they said that has just been how the past month has played out. It's been really frustrating, and instance after instance.
You can't drive through East Palestine, Ohio without noticing this. Bumper-to-bumper cleanup trucks, vehicles hauling waste from the closed-off derailment site. After about 36 Norfolk Southern train cars derailed February 3rd, 11 of them carrying hazardous material. Crews are still working to clean up toxic chemicals left behind.
This is a catastrophe. It wasn't a derailment, it was a catastrophe.
Joy Masher owns Flowers Straight from the Heart in downtown East Palestine and says residents are beyond frustrated with a lack of transparency from both the EPA and the rail company.
I mean, it's just like we don't matter. Like they thought we could just sweep it under the new railroad track and be done with it, and it's wrong.
Like many in the tiny town of 4,700, Masher witnessed the controlled burn of chemical compounds following the derailment as thick black smoke smoldered into the air and chemicals seeped into the soil.
I hate breathing the air. Is it okay? They say it's okay. How can you say that's okay? Do you see that plume of smoke? Do you see the dead fish?
Ron Dixon wants the well on his property checked along with the air quality in his home, but he lives 0.8 miles outside the EPA's designated 1 mile radius.
You don't feel any safer living there than you would in town, basically.
No, it's the same air.
And says he wants testing done beyond that.
And I understand that people inside the 1 mile radius, you know, they take priority. They're first. It should be. Okay, but don't forget about us.
We checked even farther from the derailment site and found the same issues across the state line in Darlington, Pennsylvania, about 4 miles southeast of East Palestine.
All that purple, deep purple, dark blue is the burn-off cloud.
PA residents gathered at the Darlington Township Municipality building Monday, 4 weeks after the crash, still with unanswered questions.
Typically, the elderly folks who might not have other ways to get information or want that face-to-face connection.
As I told the gentleman from the DEP, I said, you could draw whatever circles you want on your map, but the toxic cloud, it doesn't recognize that.
We need answers. We need honesty. We can take the truth. We just want the truth.
Masher says when it comes to what's in the water, many residents are calling for independent testing. Scripps News cameras capturing crews with EnviroScience Monday, testing Little Beaver Creek in Ohioville, Pennsylvania, 18 miles from the crash site. The company has worked with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to test area creeks and streams, determining more than 38,000 fish have already died as a result of the derailment.
And Veronica, many people here tell me they feel especially left behind by the federal government. President Biden was asked last week if he would be here on the ground in East Palestine, kind of surveying the scene and the land here for himself. To that, he did say, quote, at some point. Back to you.
All right, Maura Sterian reporting live for us from East Palestine, Ohio. Maura, thank you so much. Again, Norfolk Southern CEO will be facing a series of tough questions about his company's procedures before the derailment, as well as the way that it's handled the cleanup afterward. Again, his testimony takes place Thursday morning before the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee. We'll be bringing that to you live. Getting back now to team coverage with correspondent Nathaniel Reed on Capitol Hill. And he's going to break down what we could learn from that testimony Thursday.
This latest derailment has just added to the long bipartisan list of questions that Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw is likely to face on Thursday, something Senate Majority Leader said on the Senate floor he was looking forward to, but at the same time criticizing Republicans for what he said was deregulation of the railroad industry.
I expect a candid, honest, clear-eyed discussion about how we can prevent another East Palestine in the future. And while I'm glad that Norfolk Southern CEO is testifying, we cannot have an open debate, an honest debate in Congress about rail safety unless Republicans acknowledge how they spent years opposing safety rules intended to prevent accidents similar to the one in Ohio. The story of rail safety deregulation over the last decade has been a disturbing tale of Republicans placing profits over people and currying favor with the rail lobby, all at the expense of workers' and families' safety.
Now, despite the criticism from Senate Majority Leader Schumer, a number of Republicans, including J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Josh Hawley, have signed on to the Bipartisan Railway Safety Act of 2023. The act aims to enhance safety procedures for trains carrying hazardous materials like vinyl chloride and reduce the risk of wheel-bearing failures. It also requires well-trained two-person crews aboard every train and forcing rail carriers to face heightened fines by increasing the maximum fines the Department of Transportation can issue for safety violations. It also expands hazmat training for local law enforcement and first responders and tries to invest in future safety improvements. Now, while Senate Majority Leader Schumer has not yet scheduled this bill for a vote, he said that he was supportive of it. This is all coming as Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw is once again expected to testify on Capitol Hill this coming Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern.
All right, Nate, thank you so much. As Nate just mentioned, Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw will be appearing before that Senate panel Thursday. Scripps News will be covering it live beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll see that. Much more to come in this hour of Scripps News Live. In the meantime, California Governor Gavin Newsom saying that his state will cut ties with pharmacy giant Walgreens over its decision to pull abortion pills in 20 states. Also, the FBI in the hunt for an accused Capitol rioter who might be on the run. And much of the U.S. is about to see a major temperature swing as we track Arctic air sweeping down from Canada. But first, China's new foreign minister accusing the U.S. of neo-McCarthyism in his very first news conference on the job. We'll have a major new development to tell you about, the bitter back and forth between Washington and Beijing. That's next.
Here's TV shark Robert Herjavec for CarShield.
I love cars, and I also love great deals. That's why I'm such a fan of CarShield. They have an amazing deal that helps protect you from the sky-high cost of big auto repairs.
The check engine light on your vehicle can come on at any time. If your car is out of warranty, an engine replacement can cost over $5,000. A new transmission, over $4,000. Even a new air conditioner can run over $1,500.
If you suddenly had to pay those costs, it could really hurt your bottom line.
CarShield administrators have paid for my claims over $5,000. Now, who does that? CarShield? you're the best. A plan that works.
When your car or truck breaks down, you simply take it to the certified repair shop or dealer of your choice. CarShield administrators take care of the rest.
And CarShield gives you VIP treatment.
Plans through CarShield include 24-hour roadside assistance, courtesy towing, and rental car options when your vehicle is being repaired.
I did my due diligence. CarShield is a deal that is just too good to pass up. In fact, CarShield is America's #1 auto protection company.
CarShield administrators have paid out over $1 billion in claims and have protected millions of vehicles. Call now for a free quote.
It's only a matter of time until your vehicle is going to need a repair. Save big with CarShield.
Call now for an instant free quote. CarShield offers month-to-month plans for every budget. There are no long-term contracts. CarShield has coverage for vehicles with 5,000 to 150,000 miles. CarShield experts are standing by now. The sooner you call, the sooner you can drive with peace of mind.
Coverage through CarShield is a deal that is just too good to pass up. If you want to save a lot of money on future auto repair bills, I recommend you call CarShield now.
Call 1-800-680-9870 or go to carshield.com. That's 1-800-680-9870. Call now.
Ohio officials ordering everyone living within a mile of a train derailment to evacuate the area.
People want to know why the train company responsible for this isn't talking directly to them.
We need to give this community the confidence that their health is protected.
Trust with a community that doesn't seem to trust anyone.
Do you feel safe here? No, I don't.
I think that there are a lot of questions.
Who can we trust?
Why does it smell bad? Why does my throat hurt?
Worried about kind of long-term effects.
Derailed. Disaster in East Palestine. For continuing coverage, stay with Scripps News.
New developments in the bitter back and forth between Washington and Beijing. China's new foreign minister held his first news conference yesterday and held nothing back as he harshly criticized the United States. During the 2-hour press event, Qin Gang accused the Biden administration of trying to, quote, suppress China in all its respects. He accused the U.S. of, quote, hysterical neo-McCarthyism that will lead to catastrophic consequences, which could put the, quote, future of humanity at risk. And at one point, Qin appeared to take a swipe at former President Trump's rallying cry, saying Chinese suppression will not make America great and it will not stop China's rejuvenation. In the meantime, the CEO of Chinese-owned TikTok struck a decidedly more moderate tone at a Harvard Business Review conference on Monday as he defended his app against allegations its users' data could be at risk. Shou Chu fielded questions about how TikTok prevents the Chinese Communist Party from accessing data about users in the United States. Shou insists that the Chinese government has never asked for users' private data and that all data is stored in a cloud structure that is controlled by U.S. personnel. Shou's explanation for how TikTok handles its user-sensitive data is not enough to satisfy some in the U.S. Senate, however. At 3 p.m. Eastern, Senators Mark Warner, a Democrat, and John Thune, a Republican, will be holding a news conference to unveil their new bipartisan legislation addressing TikTok data concerns. The bill is designed to expand on the president's legal authority to ban any technology deemed a safety risk to the U.S. or its users. So with all the talk here about TikTok, we thought now would be a good time to explain why so many people are raising a red flag about this app. Congressman Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin called it digital fentanyl, and he's not the only one with concerns about TikTok's incredibly popularity and influence. Scripps News entertainment correspondent Casey Mendoza takes us inside the debate.
It's where songs and dances come alive. Since 2020, TikTok has taken over as the pandemic forced us away from each other and closer to our smartphones. At the end of 2021, the platform reeled in more than 1 billion users each month, eclipsing the growth of all other apps. It even topped Google at one point as the most visited website on the internet. Data analytics company Demand Sage finds 4.8 billion people are on the internet globally, and more than 20% of them are scrolling TikTok. Communication professor Dustin York says TikTok's magic lies in a formula that many other web giants have utilized.
So TikTok's algorithm is fantastic because it uses likes and comments and video watches, but that's the traditional stuff. That's the same exact things that YouTube's using, Instagram's using, Facebook's using.
But few have conquered.
TikTok says, hey, Give us that obligation of choice, and we'll give you something that you like, making the user much more confident when they hit that TikTok button on their widget on their phone, that they will have entertainment within seconds.
As you view, like, and scroll, the app's machine learning-powered system gains deep insights about your preferences, developing a hyper-personalized experience just for you. But some worry the For You customization is used for all the wrong reasons.
Well, I think TikTok should have been banned a long time ago. I wish President Trump would have done it. He was close to doing it. It needs to be done now.
Senator Marco Rubio is among a handful of Republican lawmakers lobbying to outlaw the app in the U.S., accusing its Chinese parent company ByteDance of cyber espionage. Speculation has grown as headlines show possible links between ByteDance, headquartered in Beijing, to the Chinese government. TikTok vehemently denies the claims, saying the security of the data our community entrusts us with is a top priority at TikTok, despite recent reports questioning that commitment. Several states have already banned TikTok on government-issued devices in what they say is an effort to safeguard Americans' data. Content moderation is also a concern. At a tech industry event in July, Google's Senior Vice President of Knowledge and Information said around 40% of young people have replaced Googling with TikTok. And according to a recent report from NewsGuard, 20% of TikTok searches around prominent news topics contained misinformation.
I deleted it because I found it was like a breeding ground for misinformation.
I actually keep an eye on it because there's a lot of things, good and bad.
I feel like all social media, like, it all ties together and pretty much all the same thing. So it's like as long as you're careful, then you should be fine.
TikTok may feel like every other social media platform, but the platform's influence sets it apart. With help from the hashtag BookTok, the publishing industry saw a 9% jump in sales in 2021, selling more than any other year on record. And more music artists are ascending to stardom as 75% of TikTokers say they're finding new music to love on their timeline.
It has built basically a perfect process of finding what you like, or even things you don't know you like until you find it on TikTok, to basically serve up to you without making any choices whatsoever.
Whether you can't get enough of it or it's not for you, the world can't help but take notice.
Where TikTok is the new gold standard, is this micro entertainment, algorithmic entertainment, and everyone's knocking it off, from Reels to YouTube Shorts. And basically what we have to think about now is who's going to win out.
The major question now is if TikTok's timeline will scroll on as scrutiny gets louder. Casey Mendoza, Chicago.
And a quick reminder right here that as long as TikTok is still around, Scripps News will be on it. You can find us there as well as on Twitter, Instagram, and of course on Facebook. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, attorneys for former Vice President Mike Pence ask a judge to block a subpoena seeking his testimony regarding January 6th. Also, California's governor says his state won't play ball with Walgreens. That's in the battle over access to abortion pills. Stay with us. You're watching Scripps News Live.
Over 50 million people in America suffer from a sleeping disorder, and you don't have to be one of them. I'm Dr. Eric Ciliberti, and for years I've watched many people struggle to get quality sleep. So I developed the formula for Relaxium Sleep. Relaxium Sleep has been clinically tested to balance neurotransmitters and restore the body's natural sleep cycle. Over the last 10 years, Relaxium has helped hundreds of thousands of people get the quality sleep they deserve.
I've been using Relaxium for 8 years now. I recommend it to all my clients, my friends, my family. It really helps them as well, and you got to have it yourself.
Relaxium Sleep is a completely drug-free formula with no unwanted side effects and no risk of dependency.
In a double-blind placebo clinical trial, Relaxium Sleep helped people fall asleep 140% faster, stay asleep over 200% longer, and wake up feeling refreshed.
I was having sleep problems for about 4.5 months. Since I've been taking Relaxium, I wake up and I'm more alert, I have more energy, and it's been just life-saving.
As a nurse, you have to be mentally focused. You have to be on point. And Relaxium Sleep helps me do that.
The best thing you can do for your health is get a full night's rest. People with poor sleep suffer from fatigue, memory problems, and are at a far greater risk for serious health problems. Adequate sleep is vital to nourish your mental and physical health, ease stress, soothe emotions, and bolster the immune system.
Relaxium Sleep is so confident that it will work for you, they're giving away 1,000 bottles. Call 800-395-4613 or go to tryrelaxium.com. Try Relaxium Sleep risk-free for 30 days. That's 800-395-4613 or go to tryrelaxium.com.
We really don't want people to think of feeding food like ours as spoiling their dogs. Good, real food is simple. It looks like food, it smells like food. It's what dogs are supposed to be eating. No living being should ever eat processed food for every single meal of their life.
It's amazing to me how many people write in about their dogs changing for the better. The farmer's dog is just our way to help people take care of them.
Sure, you should teach him to ride a bike. Then use Greenlight and teach him how to invest in bikes. Teach him to be smart about money, and he'll go far.
Super far! Oh, hey, Mom!
Navigate the world of money together. Invest in your best investment. Greenlight.
It's a new year, and you have new goals to chase, new success stories to write, new finish lines to run through. Echelon has everything you need to help you get there. With high-quality, affordable bikes, treadmills, rowers, and fitness mirrors, and easy access to an endless library of on- and off-equipment classes taught by world-class instructors.
You've got this.
Can you beat your best? Your finish line is always within reach. Get exclusive offers now at echelonfit.com.
That's $78.29.
Oh, I've only got $50. Take out the cheese puffs and the broccoli. I mean, who likes broccoli?
I don't. Only $22.87 to go.
It would be faster with the Empower app. Empower Cash Advance gives you up to $250 instantly. No late fees, interest, or credit checks.
I've got money. Keep the cheese puffs, but leave out the broccoli.
Get Empower Cash Advance up to $250 instantly. Download the Empower app today.
I was just going through so many life changes. I was having so much anxiety. You get to this breaking point of being I need help.
At forhers.com, take a free online consultation to see if treatment might be right for you. My medication makes everything else possible.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. California is retaliating against Walgreens after the company scrapped its plans to distribute an abortion pill in some states. Governor Gavin Newsom says the state will stop doing business with the pharmaceutical giant. Attorneys general from 20 Republican-led states warned Walgreens that if they mailed the pills, the company could face legal trouble. Newsom says Walgreens caving to the attorneys general, quote, puts women's lives at risk. If a conservative federal judge in Texas rules to restrict access to those abortion pills, it could also impact treatments for miscarriages. The White House is saying it is prepared to challenge any ban. The FDA approved the drug more than 2 decades ago, but abortion opponents filed a lawsuit claiming federal regulators improperly authorized it. More than half of abortions performed in the United States are performed with pills. Well, life post-Roe is already challenging for women seeking an abortion where it's legal. Some are crossing state lines to get the procedure done, but that's if they have the means to travel. Kelsey Gibbs with Scripps News Nashville introduces us to a woman who learned her baby would not survive birth. So she left Tennessee and flew to New York to get an abortion.
If my story can at least get a medical exception in this state, that's a step in the right direction.
Allie Phillips says she's used to sharing parts of her life on social media, but she never thought a video post about her pregnancy could be used for change.
I've reached every mom that's ever had to go through something similar, and I've received over, I want to say at least 500 messages of so many different stories, and it's heartbreaking.
Phillips and her husband planned on growing their family and were excited when they got pregnant. Naming the baby Miley, they already purchased a crib, clothes, and all the baby necessities. But a routine scan shattered their dreams.
She won't hit viability. She's non-viable outside the womb. She's not compatible with life.
Doctors told the family the baby stopped growing at 15 weeks.
There was a lot more wrong than just low fluid, no fluid. and her kidneys. We found out that she has a very rare brain defect called semi-lobar holoprosencephaly, HPE for short.
She says the doctors told her the unborn child also had a heart defect and other severe abnormalities and could die any day now. Phillips is the only thing keeping her baby alive, and the longer she carries her to term, she says it becomes more dangerous for the both of them.
We had to make the decision to terminate, and since we can't terminate here, we have to look elsewhere.
Abortions are illegal in Tennessee. There are no exceptions when it comes to the life of the mother or the viability of the fetus, which means Phillips is catching a flight to New York City. She says she doesn't want to feel forced to deliver a stillborn and holds on to the good memories of her unborn child.
I'm leaving today pregnant, I'm coming back not, and that's a really hard reality.
She knows when she returns, the love she has for her child will continue as she listens to her heartbeat in this teddy bear. Phillips is hoping sharing her story can help change the law by at least adding exceptions. But in the end, she says she wants a law where women have the right to choose.
And if I can't get politicians to change their minds, then at least I can get the minds of the citizens that vote for them to change.
This was not the outcome this mother wanted, but she says there was still purpose in this pregnancy. In Clarksville, Kelsey Gibbs reporting.
Well, lawyers for former Vice President Mike Pence have asked a judge to block a subpoena for his January 6 testimony. Pence's legal team believes the subpoena is unconstitutional, and they say on January 6th, Pence was acting as president of the Senate. And they cite the Constitution's speech or debate clause, which protects lawmakers from certain legal actions related to legislative duties. Justice Department Special Prosecutor Jack Smith has subpoenaed Pence's testimony. In the 26 months since the Capitol insurrection, authorities have arrested almost 1,000 people. Nearly 1/3 of them were charged with assaulting or resisting police. More than 500 have pleaded guilty to a variety of federal charges. Property damage from the attack has reached nearly $3 million. Up next on Scripps News Live, the FAA has stepped in to investigate after a pair of planes clipped one another on the runway at Boston's airport. And the search for 4 Americans kidnapped at gunpoint in Mexico has come to a tragic end, with 2 of the missing now confirmed dead. We're following new developments next when Scripps News Live comes back.
Do you spend hours maintaining your gutters? Save that time with LeafGuard's maintenance-free system. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS. Mesh filters sit on top of your gutters, building up debris and eventually clogging. Then they need to be cleaned too. Honestly, your home should have been built with LeafGuard gutters. LeafGuard's wraparound hood deflects debris and keeps water away from your home. The one-piece seamless system is strong, 20% thicker than average, and built to last. Plus, LeafGuard is guaranteed to never clog for as long as you own your home. Right now, get a complete LeafGuard system for only $99 down, $99 a month, and $99 installation. You'll also receive a $100 Visa gift card with a free gutter inspection and in-home estimate. Damage from clogged gutters can cost you thousands. Never worry about clogged gutters again. Don't wait, you've still got time. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS today. That's 1-833-2-GUTTERS.
We asked real customers what they love most about Consumer Cellular.
What I love? The pricing was fantastic. The coverage is great.
It was the same, if not better.
Consumer Cellular provides the exact same premium coverage as the nation's leading carriers.
Consumer Cellular offers really great coverage. It's the same.
The price is remarkable.
With prices on the rise, ours are dropping again. Get unlimited talk and text with a flexible data plan starting at $20 a month.
They are always concerned about my needs.
Our customer service team is 100% based in the U.S., and we've received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service again.
I got a great phone, and I got to keep my number.
And AARP members get exclusive discounts.
You'd be surprised how much you can actually save.
Switch today and save up to half on your wireless, and add extra lines anytime for just $15 each. Call 800-566-4817. Go to consumercellular.com or visit a Target store today.
Trust me, you'll be satisfied.
When what's happening in the world hits home.
What strikes me is how many children are here.
And when reporting the news matters the most. Scripps News reports. Tonight at 8/7 Central. Only on Scripps News.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Great to see you on this Tuesday. It's about 34 minutes after the hour. Let's take a look at your top headlines right now. A Mexican governor confirming 2 of the 4 Americans kidnapped last week are dead. A third is wounded and a fourth is unharmed. The group was in a van that had just crossed from Brownsville, Texas to Matamoros when they were ambushed. Authorities believe the Americans were mistaken for members of a Haitian cartel. The Mexican president says one person is now in custody. And frustration continues to grow after 2 Norfolk Southern train derailments in Ohio. One led to a massive fire and controlled chemical spill in East Palestine last month, and the other train derailed between Dayton and Columbus on Saturday. The most recent one didn't involve toxic chemicals, but prompted officials to issue a temporary shelter-in-place order. Residents are worried about potential health issues, and they're demanding the EPA and the rail company be more transparent.
I mean, it's just like we don't matter. Like they thought we could just sweep it under the new railroad track and be done with it, and it's wrong. We need answers. We need honesty. We can take the truth. We just want the truth.
After multiple tests, government officials have constantly assured the public that the air and water quality in East Palestine are safe. But many residents are calling for independent testing and expanding tests in neighborhoods outside of East Palestine. And in other news, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has just finished testifying before the Senate Banking Committee. Today's hearing began at 10 a.m. Eastern, and Chairman Powell says the Fed will likely be raising interest rates higher than originally forecast in an effort to curb inflation. Powell is calling inflation stubborn and the job market resilient. January data shows inflation at a 5.4% annual rate. The Fed wants to bring it down to their 2% target. Scripps News economics correspondent Bianca Fascini has been monitoring the hearing all morning and joins us now live from Washington. So, Bianca, big moment. We've all been waiting to hear from the Fed. What were your biggest takeaways from this morning's testimony?
Hey, Veronica. First of all, lots of economic news coming up this week, starting today, of course, with Fed Chair Powell testifying in front of the Senate Banking Committee, giving his semi-annual monetary policy report, basically just testifying to Congress how the economy is doing, what the Fed is up to maintain a healthy economy and make sure that we continue to see growth moving forward. And really the biggest takeaway here is that he, emphasized inflation remains high. And as a result, we should expect more interest rate hikes to come. Listen specifically to what he said.
With inflation well above our longer run goal of 2%, and with the labor market remaining extremely tight, the FOMC has continued to tighten the stance of monetary policy, raising interest rates by 4.5 percentage points over the past year. We continue to anticipate that ongoing increases in the target range for the federal funds rate will be appropriate in order to attain a stance of monetary policy that is sufficiently restrictive to return inflation to 2% over time.
Now, after that, he then added, quote, the process of getting inflation back down to 2%, which you just heard him say is the target range of the Fed, 2% inflation, quote, has a long way to go and is likely to be bumpy. So tomorrow he's going to continue his testimony in front of the House Financial Services Committee. So we'll likely hear a lot of the same thing tomorrow, similar questions from members of Congress as well. And then on Friday, we're getting the next monthly jobs report. As many people probably remember, the last monthly jobs report we got came in way stronger than expected and very much surprised economists everywhere because most of them were anticipating to see much smaller growth in January. And that report was one of the few reports that we've gotten so far that really could change course for the Fed. And officials meet again in just a couple of weeks when they are expected to announce another interest rate hike. But this time around, it could be more than 25 basis points based off of some of the economic data we've seen. So we'll see what happens in just a few weeks, Veronica.
Yikes. Yeah, I'm looking at the markets right now. There's a sell-off happening on Wall Street. The Dow is down more than 300 points. Bianca Fascini in Washington. We will, of course, be checking back with you in the next hour. Bianca, thank you so much for the update. President Biden will be bucking tradition and introduce his budget in Pennsylvania on Thursday. Now, normally this is unveiled at the White House, but the president has suggested tax increases on the wealthy will be a cornerstone of his budget proposal. He believes these new taxes on the rich could help extend Medicare's lifespan by 25 years. A budget proposal and passage are two different things. Republicans control the House and oppose most of the president's ideas. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, scary moments on board a United Airlines flight. Passenger is caught on camera trying to attack a flight attendant. We're going to explain what happened next. But first, the family of an American woman killed in Mexico now calling for a high-level diplomatic intervention to get justice in her death. We're back after this.
You're looking pretty good, Mr. Johnson. But we need to take some x-rays today.
That's why.
Yes, x-rays are expensive, but the front desk said you recently enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits that now cover today's x-rays and cleaning costs.
Wow, okay.
Well, Medicare Parts A and B do not cover your routine dental coverage like cleanings, fillings, or x-rays. Yes, you have a Medicare Part C plan, commonly called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Part C plans cover everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits like dental, vision, and hearing.
Wow. That's great that my plan includes dental coverage that helps pay for these costs.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. A Medicare Part C plan could include dental coverage that pays for routine dental exams and teeth cleanings, dental x-rays, fillings, tooth extractions, root canals, dentures, implants, and crowns.
If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent. You don't get a plan with these benefits automatically, so it's always good to call to see if there's a plan with extra benefits available in your zip code. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans available with additional benefits that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B, like routine dental coverage. In fact, 24 million Medicare beneficiaries do not have any dental coverage. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there's a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Remember, you don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-614-5203. 800-614-5203. This is an important message for everyone on Medicare. Today, we are talking about Medicare Part C, commonly called Medicare Advantage. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans with additional benefits available that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. That's right, there are people on Medicare but don't have a Medicare Part C plan, which covers everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits in Medicare Part C. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there is a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent during the special enrollment period. You don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-785-8498. 800-785-8498. This is an important message for everyone on Medicare. Today, we are talking about Medicare Part C, commonly called Medicare Advantage. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans with additional benefits available that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B. That's right, there are people on Medicare but don't have a Medicare Part C plan, which covers everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits in Medicare Part C. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there is a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent during the special enrollment period. You don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-785-8498. 800-785-8498.
An attorney for a North Carolina woman killed in Mexico says she needs diplomatic intervention to move the case forward. Shanquela Robinson died during a vacation in Cabo San Lucas in October. Video showed a woman attacking Robinson in a hotel room. An autopsy revealed she died from a broken neck and spine. The attorney says Mexican authorities have prepared extradition papers for an unidentified person, but they need the U.S.'s help getting that person back to Mexico. The FBI is investigating a suspicious death on a Carnival cruise ship in the meantime. A woman was found unresponsive during a trip to the Bahamas on February 27th. Cruise officials say that woman was pronounced dead after medical staff and crew tried to revive her. Few details about how she died have been released, but the cruise line says a search of her room turned up information to suggest that her death was isolated and not a threat to anyone else on board. And a scary incident to tell you about now. On a United Airlines plane bound for Boston, cameras capturing the pandemonium as it unfolded. Take a look. Now, the plane took off from Los Angeles yesterday, and then mid-flight, federal prosecutors are saying that Francisco Torres tried to open the emergency exit door. Prosecutors also allege that he tried to stab a flight attendant in the neck with a broken metal spoon. Passengers, as you just saw, tackled him and had to restrain him until the flight made it to Boston. Torres is now facing federal charges that could land him a life sentence in prison if he is convicted. So the FAA is investigating another incident involving two United Airlines planes at Boston's airport. Investigators are saying that two planes clipped each other while preparing to take off. One was being pushed back from the gate when its wing hit the tail of a plane parked beside it. No injuries were reported. New on Scripps Live, the Justice Department has filed suit to block JetBlue's attempted $3.8 billion acquisition of rival Spirit Airlines. The suit, filed in conjunction with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, State of New York, and the District of Columbia, alleges that a merger of these two airlines will hurt consumers by eliminating competition and consolidating these two major airlines. The DOJ is saying this merger could result in higher airfares and reduced routes, which would hurt passengers in the long run. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live. Bundle up. Temperatures across parts of the south and the east are about to take a nosedive. Your frigid forecast is straight ahead. Plus, one Michigan man is turning lemons into lemonade when a power outage is threatening to wipe out his entire stock of sweets. We're going to show you how next when we come back.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide, 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
Time to get up, sweetie.
Most people might not think much about all the little things they do every day. But for me, just being able to do those little things is the best part of my day. Ready, Mom? It hasn't been easy, but sometimes the hardest things in life have the best rewards. And it's all because of my amazing friends at the Shriners Hospitals for Children and people like you who support them every month. When you call the number on your screen and just give $19 a month, you'll be helping other kids like me do the amazing things that make up the best part of our day. Because Shriners Hospital is more than just a hospital. It's when my back gets better, where my legs get stronger, where I get to be a kid, where it's the best part of my day.
With your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you.
Please, go online to loveshriners.org right now on your phone or computer to send your love to the rescue today. Will you send your love to the rescue today? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving. Because at Shriners Hospitals for Children, going to the hospital is like going to see family. It really is the best part of my day. Please, call or go online right now to give. If operators are busy, please wait patiently or go to loveshriners.org right away. Your gift will help kids just like me have the best part of our day.
This is a show with range.
In the know.
Today, we're going to talk about crypto.
In the now.
Wild world of online real estate.
In the next.
Weaponized robots are truly becoming a thing in our military.
In the loop. Tonight at 9/8 Central, only on Scripps News.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. So we're tracking major weather changes for you this afternoon. The unseasonable warmth that we've been seeing in parts of the south and the east, they're about to become unseasonably cold. So brace yourself, because the mercury is set to plunge when a huge wave of polar air is going to sweep down from Canada, which means temperatures are going to swing from several degrees above normal, which we are enjoying right now, to about 15 degrees below normal. And that's going to happen by next Tuesday. Parts of the deep south will be seeing temperatures in the 30s and the 40s. It's going to be close to freezing in Washington, D.C., well below freezing in cities like Detroit and Chicago. So you're going to want to bundle up out there. In the meantime, look at this, Northern California. They just keep getting slammed with snow. Lake Tahoe alone seeing 16 feet of snow in just the past 2 weeks. All of that snow, the ice, it's been blocking roads and keeping food and medicine shipments from reaching people there in need. And then in South Dakota has already recorded almost half a foot of new snowfall, with more snow to come later this week. So as you can imagine, all of that snowfall is causing widespread power outages as well. There are more than 70,000 power outages across the nation right now. The majority are in Kentucky, which has been battling high winds. And then California, of course, is digging out from weeks of heavy snow there, which is just so weird to say. Pennsylvania, where a clipper system has dumped several inches of snow overnight as well. So this is nothing new, of course, because winter weather and power outages, they always seem to go hand in hand. And the Michigan man that you are about to meet knows that all too well. He lost thousands of dollars worth of sales when the power went out at his bakery. But he decided to channel all his frustration into inspiration, and he turned his bad luck into a way to brighten someone else's day. Faraz Javed with Scripps News Detroit has his story.
Sweet 220 is a well-known bakery in Livonia.
How busy does this place get?
I'm blessed, man. It gets busy. We have a great crowd.
Known for its cakes and cupcakes, the owner, Hassan Maki, says the business generates over $6,000 in sales per week. But in the last 2 weeks, the bakery suffered a huge loss.
There's nothing here, and then obviously your kitchen would probably be empty as well.
Yeah, these were all filled for us. I mean, you had cakes available.
Due to the recent storms, Hassan is one of the victims of power outages.
At home and here at the bakery, yeah.
The bakery lost power twice. Each lasted 4 days. Like everyone else, Hassan too was frustrated with DTE. He says, unlike other businesses, losing power means throwing away his baked goods.
But you did something unique.
The first thing in my head was these guys that are working, these guys and gals that are working 24 hours around the clock, you know, and bringing crews in from different states to help us.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought they were well deserved.
After losing power during last Friday's storm, Hassan gave all 200 freshly made cupcakes to DTE line workers. This picture Hassan shared with us shows when a DTE member swung by to collect the treats.
They were super appreciative. I mean, maybe they feel like they're the forgotten ones or the ones to blame again, so lift their spirits up. Again, they're probably missing their families, they're probably tired. But yeah, they had heavy smiles.
But Hassan didn't stop there. The 8 cakes in his fridge, he took them straight to Livonia Fire Department Station 1.
Yeah, it's a nice surprise when we come back and we see stuff like that the community does appreciate the job that we're doing for them.
Friday's storm, the department attended around 200 calls. Captain Timothy Eskin says it was a taxing day, hence the treats boosted morale.
Station 4 was complaining that they didn't get any.
Well, they did. Unfortunately, I made sure everybody got a cake. I was there. I divvied them all out to everybody.
I want to come up with a program to give more because I don't think it's enough. I have a 10-year-old boy who needs to see the kindness in this world. So the give back will never stop. It'll only grow stronger.
I'm Faraz Javed for Scripps News.
All right, so check this out. What we eat is having a negative impact on the planet. And if we don't change, we're in trouble. That's all according to a new study from climate scientists. Researchers took a look at our dietary habits and found 3 major food groups, meat, dairy, and rice, are contributing the most to global warming. And at the current rate of consumption, climate change will rise 1 degree Celsius just on food production alone. And that would push the world past the UN's agreed upon temperature target. We're going to be discussing the findings of this study and some potential solutions in your next hour of Scripps News Live. Kevin Gallagher, the director of the climate change nonprofit Emergent Resilience, will be joining us at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. That's straight ahead. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Stay with us because Scripps News Live continues after this.
We were all just a happy little family. And then when COVID started, it started getting harder and harder. When I first heard of COVID-19, I was kind of scared.
A lot of fear was, how are we going to pay the rent? What's going to happen with no money coming in? What are we going to do about electricity? What are we going to do about food and everything?
And then they shut down the school.
In these uncertain times, millions of children in America are wondering where their next meal will come from.
The only time they eat is at school. So when you take that food source away with a family that's already facing food insecurity, it has astronomical effects.
Whether kids are in school or out of school, No Kid Hungry is always there. With help from caring people like you, we're partnering with schools and community groups to ensure children get the meals they need to grow, thrive, and succeed. When you join with No Kid Hungry with a gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you'll help provide healthy meals and hope to kids in schools and communities across America.
This is where those children are getting the bulk of their food, calories, and nutrition for the day, the week, the year.
Please join us today to help end child hunger in America. Call or go online right now with your gift of only $19 a month. Use your credit card and you'll receive this No Kid Hungry t-shirt to show you're a part of the team that's helping feed kids and change lives.
What we will do is make sure that no one goes hungry on our watch.
Thank you.
The need to help our nation's children is as urgent as ever. So please, call this number or go online to helpnokidhungry.org to feed hungry kids today.
Developing now, the search for 4 Americans kidnapped in Mexico reaches a tragic end. This video capturing the moment Mexico's President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador received that call, confirming that 2 of those Americans had been found dead. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm Veronica De La Cruz. Welcome back to Scripps News Live. Mexican officials have confirmed the other 2 Americans are alive. One is injured, the other is unharmed. Yesterday, the White House said that the group traveled to Mexico last week because one person was scheduled for a medical procedure with a surgeon in Mexico. Let's get you right out to correspondent Tony Waterman, who's been tracking the story from Austin, Texas for us. So, Tony, I spoke with you in the last hour. We were waiting for a press conference from the governor of that state in Mexico, and the details have been coming in slowly. Have you learned anything new at this point?
You're absolutely right. Those details coming in very slowly, and we're also seeing some conflicting reports about where exactly these individuals were located. We are waiting for that press conference still from the governor of Tamaulipas to take place, and we are expecting some of these holes to be filled in. But as you mentioned earlier today, it was confirmed that 2 of these individuals were found dead. Another 2 were found alive. One of them seriously injured, and it's unclear whether or not those injuries are life-threatening at this point. This was a group of friends that had grown up together. They traveled from South Carolina down through Brownsville, Texas, and they were going to Matamoros because one in that group of friends was going in for reportedly cosmetic surgery. So they had traveled down there together, and the family became notified that something was wrong when they found out that the surgeon had never heard from that individual. Soon after crossing the border, they seem to have been kidnapped. There is this very graphic video showing a number of people being dragged across the ground, hauled into the flatbed of a white pickup truck at gunpoint. In this video, it appears as if perhaps even some of the bodies were quite lifeless at this point. The FBI is saying that this may be just a tragic case of mistaken identity. They are working on this theory that perhaps this group of friends was mistaken for Haitian drug smugglers when they were attacked. They have been offering the FBI a $50,000 reward to lead to the arrest of the individuals that were involved in this horrific incident. The White House, though, saying that they are continuing to work with the Mexican government to make sure that justice is served and to make sure that these individuals are returned to the United States. Attorney General Merrick Garland speaking at a separate event today, offering his condolences.
I've been briefed by the FBI, which is working with Mexican authorities, and senior department officials are working closely with our counterparts at the State Department. During this difficult time, I want to offer my deepest sympathies to the families of the Americans who were attacked and kidnapped.
And he went on to say that the U.S. is doing everything it can to help dismantle these drug cartels in Mexico. You know, Brownsville, Texas and Matamoros are sister cities right across the border from each other, and tens of thousands of people cross over the bridge there on a daily basis. They're going for doctor's appointments, lunches with their family and friends, sometimes carrying out basic commerce. But Matamoros is located in one of the most dangerous crime-ridden states in Mexico, in Tamaulipas. This is the state where 72 Central American migrants were found killed back in 2010. And over the years, we've seen this increase in turf wars between drug cartels. This is a state that is mostly controlled by the Gulf Cartel Group, and there's a lot of fighting between these cartels. So it is one of 6 states in Mexico that Americans are told not to travel to because it is so incredibly dangerous. But again, this is an area that is often traveled to, medical tourism becoming increasingly popular. And unfortunately, what happened here, worst case scenario, these 4 friends going down for a surgery, potentially a cosmetic surgery, and 2 of them now dead.
It is just devastating, and I know that medical tourism is nothing new, but such a tragic end to this story. Tony Waterman reporting live for us from Austin, Texas. Tony, thank you. So this recent situation has many people wondering why Americans are crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. It's a story that Scripps News national correspondent Thomas Hapa will dive into later today.
I'm Thomas Hoppo here in the Texas border town of Brownsville, right across the border, just miles away from where the kidnapping happened. We're talking to people who say they routinely make the trip across the border for medical care because it saves them a lot of money. Tonight, a look at so-called medical tourism and how this could be affecting their plans along the border.
And be sure to follow Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for all the very latest developments on this case and much more. Also developing at this hour, the push for more safety regulations in the railroad industry. It all comes after 2 Norfolk Southern trains derailed in Ohio in a month. Federal investigators haven't determined what caused the first derailment and chemical spill in East Palestine, but have said that it was preventable. The NTSB says if the overheated bearings were detected earlier, it may have made all the difference. Right now, Norfolk Southern and the NTSB declined to identify a cause in the Springfield, Ohio crash. A unique hazmat team in Ohio says it is prepared for derailments like the one in East Palestine. Tara Morgan with Scripps News Cleveland has more now on the team that consists of 20 fire departments across Lake County, Ohio.
Enormous, powerful, and common in Mentor. CSX and Norfolk Southern trains howling by businesses and homes.
At night, sometimes it wakes you up a shaking. It scares you.
But Betty Shelton says she's used to the noise. The tracks are just feet from the home she shares for now with her daughter.
I often wonder if they would hit the house and explode or something.
In 1 month, 2 Norfolk Southern trains derailed in Ohio, the first in East Palestine on February 3rd, the second in Springfield just days ago. The East Palestine train had toxic cancer-causing chemicals on board. Wycliffe Fire Chief Jim Powers recalls this fiery derailment in Paynesville in 2007, right behind a neighborhood. Ethanol was burned off.
It's easier to let something burn than it is to contaminate the waterways.
Powers is part of a countywide hazmat team, a FEMA-graded Type 1 team, one of only 10 in the state. He's standing in front of one of soon-to-be 3 hazmat trucks.
We have a nuclear plant. We have a lot of manufacturing. We have a lot of chemical producers.
And a lot of trains.
I would estimate we have a train go through the city maybe every 12 to 15 minutes. So when you do the math on that, that's over 100 a day.
What's different between East Palestine and Wycliffe? The population size.
I have 10,000 people within a mile of the tracks here in our community. So that lends to itself a very difficult operation.
Here in Mentor, about 15,000 people live within a mile of railroad tracks. When you add in people going to businesses, that number can double, even triple.
I can almost find some of them.
There is no good place in almost all of Lake County, but certainly not in the city of Mentor, for a train to go off the tracks. Our exposure hazards are going to be a lot greater immediately.
Minutes before this interview with Mentor Fire Lieutenant and trainer Brian Bittner, this CSX train whizzed by.
That was a very just a dry goods type bulk type containers, vehicles, and that kind of stuff. We do have all the hazardous chemicals that come through here as well, though.
Which is why Lieutenant Bittner says they train extensively. 40 hours for certified hazmat technicians. From there, Lieutenant Bittner says it goes more in depth.
They're not the second nature type calls. They're the things that now you got to big out the big books. They're unpredictable. They're very rare. We've had just the uptick in our region.
Derailments like in East Palestine and Springfield become part of the lesson.
Every incident teaches us something, but those large ones, they really show you, where you may have a shortfall.
I'm Tara Morgan for Scripps News.
So Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw is set to testify before the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee this Thursday morning. Scripps News will be covering that Senate hearing live for you starting at 10 a.m. Eastern. Shaw is expected to face a series of tough questions about his company's procedures before the East Palestine derailment and the aftermath. In other news at this hour, a passenger was arrested and charged after a scare on a United Airlines flight from Los Angeles to Boston. Cameras captured the chaos as it unfolded. Federal prosecutors are saying about 45 minutes before the plane was expected to land, a man tried to open an emergency door and then tried to stab a flight attendant in the neck with a broken metal spoon. Passengers helped the crew tackle him and restrain him until the flight landed in Boston. A witness says it was a team effort to make sure that everyone on board was safe.
A couple of passengers tried to
talked to him to calm him down. It was only making him more agitated. A woman tried to approach him and say that, he was scaring the passengers. He didn't care. He was getting louder. Many men from the plane jumped up, followed him, tackled him to the ground, and there were probably about 4 to 6 of them that sat on top of him to restrain him.
Francisco Torres now faces federal charges and a life sentence in prison if he is convicted. United says that he's also banned from flying on the airline. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, is TikTok in danger of a national ban? A new Senate bill could do exactly that. Plus, a new study says what you eat could have a negative impact on the environment. Straight ahead at 1:30 Eastern, Kevin Gallagher, the director of the climate change nonprofit Emergent Resilience, will join us live to discuss the findings of a new study and some solutions. We're back after this.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now. And if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right. If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-379-8435.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. 800-379-8435. That's 800-379-8435.
From every walk of life.
Oh my God.
These are the untold accounts. The voices breaking silence. Join renowned journalists and filmmakers for news stories every week.
I have to help expose that.
Is that a pro-life ethic? They just don't make sense to me. That makes sense at all.
Scripps News Showcase. Sunday nights at 9/8 Central on Scripps News.
So this might be a thing of the past for millions of Americans scrolling on TikTok, watching videos that look just like this. A bill in Congress could put a stop to all of it. Senators John Thune and Mark Warner are expected to introduce a bipartisan bill this afternoon, and it would give the Biden administration the authority to ban apps like TikTok in the United States. Lawmakers have been concerned about the Chinese government's access to Americans' data through this app. Let's get you right out to Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed, who's been tracking this bipartisan effort for us. He joins us now live from Capitol Hill. So, Nate, just last week we talked about the Republican-led Data Act, which would allow the president to ban TikTok. How is this bill any different?
Well, for one, this bill has not yet been released. At 3 p.m. Eastern, Senator Thune and Senator Warner are going to hold a press conference to outline how this bill is different from those previous efforts and lay out how they believe that this bill potentially could stand a chance at becoming law. This bill is different for a couple of reasons. For one, the previous bills would all allow President Biden to be the one to make the determination to ban any specific app like TikTok. This bill would actually put the onus on the Secretary of Commerce. Let's listen.
What we're saying is from 6 nations, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, and Cuba, if it is a foreign-based technology that poses a national security risk, we're going to give the Secretary of Commerce the ability to do a series of mitigation up to and including banning. And in the case of TikTok, we've got a entity that has about 100 million Americans a day spend on average 90 minutes. I bet you wish you had viewers that would spend 90 minutes a day on CNBC. They are collecting data. They have the potential to collect data. They have the potential, the Communist Party of China, to manipulate the videos so that it is a propaganda tool. And I think it is a national security threat.
And certainly a eyebrow-raising statement when the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee refers to TikTok as a national security threat. This bill already stands to be different than previous efforts, given that, according to Mark Warner, he told CNBC this morning that this bill has 12 co-sponsors already, 6 of those Democrats, 6 of those Republicans. Of course, we don't know where this bill stands in the House of Representatives, but in the Senate, it could be in a decent position to become law. There is some reporting also from the New York Times this morning that President Biden's team is also looking into the prospect of banning TikTok or cracking down on that app over those security concerns.
And Nate, something that Senator Warner was saying there was that TikTok is collecting data, but I understand that TikTok's response to all of this is quite different. What has TikTok had to say, and does this bill actually stand a chance of becoming law?
Well, I requested comment from TikTok this morning about this specific bill. They weren't ready to comment specifically on the Restrict Act, which is the bill that's getting introduced in less than a couple hours here on Capitol Hill. But they did send along the following. They said that a U.S. ban on TikTok is a ban on the export of American culture and values to the billion-plus people who use our service worldwide. We hope that Congress will explore solutions to the national security concerns that won't have the effect of censoring the voices of millions of Americans. At this point, it's not exactly clear, of course, if this bill can become law, but with 12 co-sponsors, 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans, it certainly appears to have more bipartisan attention than some of the previous efforts that have gone through Congress, like that Data Act, which was in the House Foreign Affairs Committee just last week.
All right, Nathaniel Reed reporting live for us from Capitol Hill. Nate, we'll be checking back with you. Thank you. Straight out on Scripps News Live, inflation taking center stage as Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell speaks on Capitol Hill. How what he has said has sent Wall Street into a tailspin. That's next.
You're looking pretty good, Mr. Johnson. But we need to take some x-rays today.
Okay.
Yes, x-rays are expensive, but the front desk said you recently enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits that now cover today's x-rays and cleaning costs.
Wow, okay.
Well, Medicare Parts A and B do not cover your routine dental coverage like cleanings, fillings, or x-rays. Yes, you have a Medicare Part C plan, commonly called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Part C plans cover everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits like dental, vision, and hearing.
Wow. That's great that my plan includes dental coverage that helps pay for these costs.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. A Medicare Part C plan could include dental coverage that pays for routine dental exams and teeth cleanings, dental x-rays, fillings, tooth extractions, root canals, dentures, implants, and crowns.
If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent. You don't get a plan with these benefits automatically, so it's always good to call to see if there's a plan with extra benefits available in your zip code. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans available with additional benefits that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B, like routine dental coverage. In fact, 24 million Medicare beneficiaries do not have any dental coverage. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there's a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Remember, you don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-614-5203. 800-614-5203.
We asked real customers what they love most about Consumer Cellular.
What I love? The pricing was fantastic. The coverage is great.
It was
the same, if not better.
Consumer Cellular provides the exact same premium coverage as the nation's leading carriers.
Consumer Cellular offers really great coverage. It's the same.
The price is remarkable.
With prices on the rise, ours are dropping again. Get unlimited talk and text with a flexible data plan starting at $20 a month.
They are always concerned about my needs.
Our customer service team is 100% based in the U.S., and we've received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service again.
I got a great phone, and I got to keep my number.
And AARP members get exclusive discounts.
You'd be surprised how much you can actually save.
Switch today and save up to half on your wireless and add extra lines anytime for just $15 each. Call 800-566-4817. Go to consumercellular.com or visit a Target store today.
Trust me, you'll be satisfied.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek, frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
Sure, you'll teach her how to drive a car, then use Greenlight to power her independence. With crash detection with 911 dispatch, family location sharing, and emergency SOS alerts. Invest in your best investment with Greenlight.
Ribs, chocolate cake.
You're gonna get sick. You need pumpkin.
I love pumpkin.
It's not food, it's pet insurance. So when you get hurt or sick and you need expensive medicine or surgery,
pet insurance from Pumpkin can help.
Go to pumpkin.care.
There shouldn't be a stigma around talking about mental health or taking medication for your anxiety if that's what you need to feel better. And that's something I know firsthand. That's why I trust Hers. They help women access quality mental health care 100% online. Get started today at forhers.com.
Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is on Capitol Hill speaking before a Senate panel in his semi-annual report to Congress. It's the first of back-to-back hearings for Powell on the Hill. He's going to be speaking to the House Financial Services Committee tomorrow. Scripps News economics correspondent Bianca Ficini has been following the hearing for us and joins us now live from Washington. So, Bianca, I know that you've been tracking his comments all morning long, and it didn't really take long for Wall Street to react to what we've heard so far. I know the Dow has dropped more than 300 points so far. What more can you tell us?
Hey, Veronica, lots of economic news coming up this week, starting today, of course, with Powell's testimony on the Hill, talking in front of the Senate Banking Committee about the economy and inflation and what's next. And perhaps the biggest takeaway here is that he said interest rate hikes are likely still to come because of high inflation. Listen to what he said.
With inflation well above our longer run goal of 2%, and with the labor market remaining extremely tight, the FOMC has continued to tighten the stance of monetary policy, raising interest rates by 4.5 percentage points over the past year. We continue to anticipate that ongoing increases in the target range for the federal funds rate will be appropriate in order to attain a stance of monetary policy that is sufficiently restrictive to return inflation to 2% over time.
After that, he added that the Fed's 2% target rate to get to that rate will be, quote, it will have a long way to go and is likely to be bumpy. So you really hear him saying there that the inflation fight is far from over. And tomorrow, he's going to continue his testimony in front of the House committee. So we'll likely hear lots of similar comments from lawmakers and a pretty similar conversation, really focusing on inflation and what happens next. And then on Friday, we get the next monthly jobs report. And as many people will recall, the last monthly jobs report we got came in much stronger than expected and was a huge surprise. And it was one of several data reports that we have gotten over the past couple months that have suggested that inflation is not falling at the rate that it was towards the end of 2022. And that could mean that we could have more interest rates from the Fed than perhaps anticipated. Now, Fed officials are meeting again in just a couple weeks. They were already expected to announce an interest rate hike at this March meeting, but perhaps it could be more than 25 basis points this time around because of some of that recent data. We won't know for a couple of weeks, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and all of this news, of course, spooking investors right now. That sell-off has been picking up steam. I think the last time you and I talked, the Dow was down about 300 points. It's now dropped about 470 points. Bianca Ficini reporting from Washington. Bianca, thanks so much. So President Biden will be bucking tradition and introducing his budget in Pennsylvania Thursday. Normally, it is unveiled at the White House. The president suggested tax increases on the wealthy will be a cornerstone of his budget proposal, and he believes that new taxes on the rich could help extend Medicare's lifespan by 25 years. A budget proposal and passage are two different things. Republicans control the House and oppose most of the president's ideas. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, President Biden hoping to crack down on crime across the nation. Up next, how his proposed budget could play a role in those efforts. Also, the death toll growing after a stampede outside of a concert in Rochester, New York. We'll have the details next.
Nothing is more important than family. A family you're born into, a family you choose, or a family you make. I'm Padma Lakshmi. I came to this country when I was 4 years old with my mother. We came here because it was a land of opportunity. But for many, that's not the case.
Porque primero me separaron de mi mamá y de ahí de mi hermano.
Immigrant families are being separated. Black and brown families are torn apart by a broken legal system. LGBTQ people suffer discrimination in adoption and health care. The need to protect and defend the civil liberties we all hold dear is more urgent than ever because families belong together. You can help by joining the American Civil Liberties Union today.
Call or go online now and become an ACLU Guardian of Liberty. All it takes is just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day.
The ACLU has fought to allow LGBTQ couples to marry, for racial justice, to stop family separation. We can't do this work without you. Together, we can defend our democracy, ensure liberty and justice for all, and keep families strong.
So please, call the ACLU now or go to myaclu.org. When you use your credit card, you'll receive this special member kit to show you're part of a movement to defend free speech, protect our civil liberties, and keep families together.
I hope you'll join me in supporting the ACLU today, because we, the people, means all of us.
Call or go online to myaclu.org to become a Guardian of Liberty today.
This is a show with range.
In the know.
Today, we're going to talk about crypto.
In the now.
Wild world of online real estate.
In the next.
Weaponized robots are truly becoming a thing in our military.
In the loop. Tonight at 9, 8 Central, only on Scripps News.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Let's get you caught up right now on the day's top stories. Authorities believe 4 Americans kidnapped in Mexico were mistaken for members of a Haitian cartel. 2 were killed, a 3rd was wounded, the 4th was unharmed. The Americans were in a van that had just crossed from Brownsville, Texas to Matamoros, Mexico when they were attacked. The Mexican president says 1 person is now in custody. One of the Americans' relatives says the group traveled there from South Carolina, so one of them could get a tummy tuck. Unfounded fears of gunfire sparking a stampede at a Rochester, New York rap concert on Sunday. 2 people died, others were injured. Memphis rap artist Glorilla and Finesse 2 Times had just finished performing when there was a sudden surge for the exits.
Hold people accountable for what happened last night, period. When you put on a concert in this city or anywhere around the country, you have to make sure that all I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Now, it's too early to say what precipitated this, as the chief said, but I intend to get to the bottom of this because we will see more concerts in Rochester. It's what we deserve.
Now, in the meantime, officials have canceled the venue's next scheduled rap concert. Senators are planning to introduce a new bill on TikTok later on this afternoon. It is sponsored by Democrats and Republicans, and it gives the president the authority to respond to safety threats that TikTok and other apps might pose. Lawmakers are saying that TikTok could put users' data at risk, an accusation the company's CEO is disputing. So no matter where people live, many Americans are worried about crime in their community. But only in Washington, D.C. can Congress take action to stop a local ordinance from taking effect. National correspondent Joe St. George explains this issue.
Congress is doing something it rarely does this week, intervene in local D.C. politics, because majority of lawmakers here on Capitol Hill believe that a recent revision to the city's criminal code doesn't make the community safer. Lawmakers have said that it reduces penalties for certain crimes at a time in which more Americans are growing concerned about crime. Now, what Congress is doing with local D.C. politics can't happen where you live. Congress can only intervene because D.C. isn't a state, and the city of Washington is governed differently because of that distinction. But it is a sign that President Biden and more Democrats are making crime prevention a bigger issue. In addition to taking action locally in D.C., Thursday, President Biden is expected to call for an increase in crime prevention funding. This comes as 56% of Americans, according to a recent Gallup poll, report feeling that crime has increased where they live. There has been a noticeable shift here on Capitol Hill to make crime prevention a bigger priority. This in the aftermath of the Chicago mayor losing a re-election campaign recently. An increase in crime, a big factor contributing to her loss. Now, President Biden and top Democrats here on Capitol Hill continue to believe that improving our nation's gun policies is one way to make communities around the country safer. President Biden would like an assault weapons ban, but that idea has previously been rejected by Republicans who are in leadership in the House of Representatives. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
Also in Washington, lawyers for former Vice President Mike Pence have asked a judge to block a subpoena for his January 6 testimony. Pence's legal team believes the subpoena is unconstitutional, and they say on January 6, Pence was acting as president of the Senate. They cite the Constitution's speech or debate clause, which protects lawmakers from certain legal actions related to legislative duties. Justice Department Special Prosecutor Jack Smith has subpoenaed Pence's testimony. In the 26 months since the Capitol insurrection, authorities have arrested almost 1,000 people. Nearly 1/3 of them were charged with assaulting or resisting police. More than 500 have pleaded guilty to a variety of federal charges. Property damage from the attack has reached nearly $3 million. In the meantime, the FBI is saying that January 6 defendants Olivia Pollack and Joseph Hutchinson III tampered with or removed their ankle monitors. Olivia Pollack was due in a Washington, D.C. court yesterday, but she didn't show up. She is the sister of Jonathan Pollack. He is also facing charges in connection with the insurrection and has been on the run now for months. The FBI is offering a $30,000 reward for information leading to his arrest and conviction. Coming up after a quick break on Scripps News Live, a new study shows the food that we eat could impact climate change. I'll be speaking live with an expert about how much hotter the world is going to get if we don't change our ways. We're back after this.
Attention all Medicare recipients. Did you know you could be adding up to $164 back to your Social Security check every month? Certain beneficiaries qualify for specific benefits based on income verification. Get a free Medicare benefits review and see if you qualify. Just call 800-931-8741. This program helps lower Medicare costs like premiums, deductibles, and coinsurance. New to Medicare, moving, or losing coverage? You may also be eligible for a Medicare Advantage plan with additional benefits at no cost to you. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to check your eligibility. Just call 800-931-8741. You could be adding up to $164 back to your Social Security check every month. Certain beneficiaries qualify for specific benefits based on income verification. You don't get these savings automatically. Call now. There's no obligation to enroll. The call and Medicare benefits review are free. That's 800-931-8741. Attention all Medicare recipients. Did you know you could be adding up to $164 back to your Social Security check every month? Certain beneficiaries qualify for specific benefits based on income verification. Get a free Medicare benefits review and see if you qualify. Just call 800-931-8741. This program helps lower Medicare costs like premiums, deductibles, and co-insurance. New to Medicare, moving or losing coverage? You may also be eligible for a Medicare Advantage plan with additional benefits at no cost to you. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to check your eligibility. You could be adding up to $164 back to your Social Security check every month. Certain beneficiaries qualify for specific benefits based on income verification. You don't get these savings automatically. Call now. There's no obligation to enroll. The call and Medicare benefits review are free. Just call 800-931-8741. That's 800-931-8741.
No matter what school looks like, no matter where kids are learning, there is still one thing we can be sure of. Too many kids in America are hungry.
We're all just a happy little family. And then when COVID started, it started getting harder and harder.
When I first heard of COVID-19, I was kind of scared.
A lot of fear was, how are we going to pay the rent? What are we going to do about electricity? What are we going to do about food and everything?
And then they shut down the school.
The only time they eat is at school. So when you take that food source away with a family that's already facing food insecurity, it has astronomical effects.
Kids in your community and across America need you now more than ever. But no matter where they are, No Kid Hungry will be there to help.
With a gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you'll help provide healthy meals and hope to kids in schools and communities across America.
This is where those children are getting the bulk of their food, calories, and nutrition for the day, the week, the year.
Please join us today to help end child hunger in America. Call or go online right now with your gift of only $19 a month. Use your credit card and you'll receive this No Kid Hungry t-shirt to show you're a part of the team that's helping feed kids and change lives.
What we will do is make sure that no one goes hungry on our watch.
Thank you.
Now, when more families than ever are struggling to feed their kids, you can help provide access to healthy meals and hope for their future. So please call this number right now to join me in helping hungry kids, or go online to helpnokidhungry.org and help feed hungry kids today.
A new study warns that we need to change the way we eat and produce our food, or climate change could get worse. According to the study published in the journal Nature Climate Change, greenhouse gas emissions from our food production could raise the Earth's temperature by 1 degree by 2100. Now, the study says our food produces methane, a powerful gas emission that harms climate change more than other gases. And it comes from mostly 3 sources: meat from cows, chickens, and goats, dairy, and rice. And those account for at least 19% of all food that's responsible for warming the planet. But meat is the most responsible. So if this trend continues, it would push the world's temperature over the limit created under the Paris Climate Agreement. That agreement was created to prevent the worst possible impacts of climate change. Kevin Gallagher is the director of Emergent Resilience, a nonprofit that helps build human resilience for a climate changing world. And he joins me now live. Kevin, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Veronica.
So, Kevin, you don't always think about, how maybe what you're eating could be impacting the planet. So this might be new for some folks. Do us a favor and break down how the food that we're eating and producing could be contributing to climate change.
Yeah, thank you. This is definitely something that's probably not front of mind for everyone. And it really speaks to the way carbon and greenhouse gas emissions overall are really integrated to our entire lifestyle. And so in the food sector, as you mentioned, there are those 3 major areas that this is arising out of. It's animals, and they're really the biggest factor when it comes to food, and it's the methane released from their food, from their waste. That's a particularly rich source of this methane that as their waste decomposes, that gets released into the atmosphere and then contributes to greenhouse gas forcing. And so the more domesticated animals that we raise and then consume, the more of that waste that there's going to be and more methane in the atmosphere. And so that's kind of the chain of causation there.
And whenever we think about climate change, Kevin, we normally think about fossil fuels. So how does this compare to fossil fuels? Is this as serious as fossil fuels?
So agriculture is a significantly smaller share of the emissions pie. So if you were to think of all of our annual emissions as a pie, agriculture would be about 10%. So one slice of a 10-slice pie. Energy would account for about 72%. Of that, the electricity sector, which is largely powered by fossil fuels, would be around 30%. So 3 slices of the pie relative to the one for agriculture. And there would be other sectors as well that are larger than agriculture. Transportation comes in at around 15% or 1.5 slices of pie in this analogy. Manufacturing and construction is about 12.4%. So agricultural overall is at 11. So a major component. And what really is notable about this is something that is just one slice of the pie can have such big ramifications. And that really speaks to where we are and how difficult this predicament is that we're in responding to these emissions.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second because I know what people might think when they hear this, because the study, it shows that temperatures could rise 1 degree in the next 80 years by the year 2100. When you hear that, 1 degree, it doesn't really seem like much. So how concerned should we be? How damaging could this be to the planet?
Yeah, so this is 1 degree related to that one slice of pie, and there are 9 other slices of pie that can each contribute their own number of degrees. And so it's really the cumulative aspect of this issue that makes it challenging, and they will accumulate over the, in this case, next 80 years. And so we're already seeing in Pakistan, in China, in the United States with these recent storms, impacts that are having significant impacts on people's lives and, killing people and displacing people in significant numbers. And so we're already at a place where we're seeing these impacts in our lives. And this is speaking to additional impacts above that will make things even worse.
So we hear all of this, and I'm sure people they're concerned. So the question is, what can we do? What are the solutions? Is it as simple as changing your diet, becoming a vegetarian? What should people be doing right now?
So I think the first thing is to acknowledge that concern. Really, we can't make the changes that are necessary from the same place that created these issues. And so it's really acknowledging our experience of this predicament that we're in, recognizing that is our body's kind of wisdom telling us how we might respond to this. So check in with that. Being afraid, being anxious about what's happening is an appropriate response. If that's where you are, that's a really important place to be, and your body's wisdom speaking to you. And so move from there to building community. That I would say is the first step. Whatever you're feeling around this issue, there are other people out there who are also feeling the same thing. Find those people, and you can begin to explore together what might be a good response in your local community.
All right, so you say reach out, raise awareness, build community, and acknowledge the way that you're feeling about all of this, because truthfully, if more people come together, they raise awareness, then it is a problem that I think people could tackle at the end of the day, is essentially what you're saying.
Absolutely. That's correct. And we can act at all scales. It's the individual behavior. If changing your diet is something that calls to you, go ahead and do that. That's an action you can engage in immediately. If making changes in the policy space is something that draws you, go that route. Because this problem is so pervasive, it also means that our responses are pretty universal. We can act anywhere at any scale of our society to make positive changes.
Kevin, I know this study is fairly new, but have you changed your diet? What are you doing? What are you doing right now? Now that we have this new information, how are you responding?
Well, my work every day is related to this issue. So when I wake up, I'm already working on it. I've made changes in my diet to restrict meat consumption significantly. I changed my transportation modes. I do fly very occasionally, but I've reduced that significantly. For me, it's about the lens that I have that kind of affects every decision that I make rather than one specific behavior. So it's a way of kind of changing the underlying equation, basically, that would guide my life to be more reflective of the situation that we're in and to be a responsible citizen of the world.
Yeah, it sounds like you're environmentally conscious and definitely focusing on reducing your carbon footprint, which I think is something that everybody should be taking into consideration. Kevin Gallagher from Emergent Resilience. Kevin, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much. It was good to be with you.
Coming up next, communities across the country trying to find new ways to lessen the impact of climate change. Scripps News national correspondent Chris Conti shares a success story in Florida with what's known as a living shoreline. Biologists believe that it could become a model for other coastal communities.
Nesting season, it depends on the species. We're just starting to get into it for most species.
This is the time of year Jeff Leichty loves. Most days, he can hardly wait to be out on the water. As a coastal biologist with Audubon, Florida, Jeff knows birds.
So we've got a few brown pelicans that are residents here.
But oftentimes, when he looks out on the horizon, it's hard not to wonder if the future is flying away.
It's an area that these birds rely on, have been coming to for decades.
For years, this tiny island just south of Tampa was drowning. Wakes from large boats and rising sea levels caused by climate change were threatening to wipe out this sanctuary where thousands of endangered birds nest and flock for safety.
Now is the time to act and do what we can to protect the important places and make sure that we give wildlife and ecosystems the ability to be resilient.
So act they did, constructing one of the nation's first living shoreline barriers back in 2011. It now looks like this.
It's a series of 6-foot tall, 9,000-pound concrete units.
But these are not just concrete blocks. The material they're constructed with is actually pH neutral, which helps facilitate the growth of oysters and barnacles.
We're sort of at a middle tide here right now.
And the holes in the middle create more surface area for oysters to grow. In addition to breaking up wave energy that protects both the birds here and the trees they nest in.
There is another layer to all of this, the funding. This multi-million-dollar project was actually made possible because of money that came from the Deepwater Horizon oil spill settlement.
A small island has become a big success story.
As communities across the country look at ways to mitigate the impacts of climate change, this becomes an example. How?
This is an example. We're working with nature, making sure that the system that's here is resilient, able to adapt to, in this case, sea level rise.
It's not just rising sea levels, though. Projects like this one are helping to better protect coastal communities. When Hurricane Ian came through here last year, the living shoreline breakwater protected small seedlings from getting washed away.
These trees were in strong conditions prior to that, able to withstand stronger winds and be more resilient in the face of storms.
Alabama and Mississippi both started building living shorelines in 2015. New York is currently constructing one in response to damage caused by Hurricane Sandy.
Is this good news?
This is great news, yeah. We're really excited about this project and the way it's turned out.
For Jeff and his colleagues, the hope here is by removing just one stressor. We'll give this island and these birds a chance so they can continue to find peace and safety no matter the headwinds they face. Chris Conti, Scripps News, Tampa.
So to come on Scripps News Live, we are celebrating Women's History Month with a trailblazing lawmaker. The impact that she's made in Mississippi after serving more than 40 years in office. And what's next after she retires. We'll be right back.
You're looking pretty good, Mr. Johnson. But we need to take some x-rays today.
That's why.
Yes, x-rays are expensive, but the front desk said you recently enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan with extra benefits that now cover today's x-rays and cleaning costs.
Wow, okay.
Well, Medicare Parts A and B do not cover your routine dental coverage like cleanings, fillings, or x-rays. Yes, you have a Medicare Part C plan, commonly called Medicare Advantage. Medicare Part C plans cover everything in Part A and Part B, plus extra benefits like dental, vision, and hearing.
Wow. That's great that my plan includes dental coverage that helps pay for these costs.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. A Medicare Part C plan could include dental coverage that pays for routine dental exams and teeth cleanings, dental x-rays, fillings, tooth extractions, root canals, dentures, implants, and crowns.
If you're losing coverage, moving, or new to Medicare, call to speak with a licensed insurance agent. You don't get a plan with these benefits automatically, so it's always good to call to see if there's a plan with extra benefits available in your zip code. If you don't have a Medicare Part C plan, call now because there may be plans available with additional benefits that are simply not covered under Medicare Parts A and B, like routine dental coverage. In fact, 24 million Medicare beneficiaries do not have any dental coverage. Here's the good news. If you're on Medicare, you can call even if you called last year. We will check to see if there's a Part C plan available in your area with additional benefits. Remember, you don't get Medicare Part C benefits automatically, so call now for your free 2023 no-obligation Medicare benefits review. Just call 800-614-5203. 800-614-5203.
What happened? A porcupine?
Oh, no. I'm here for arthritis therapy. It's kinda zen.
Pumpkin plans cover what you'd expect from a best-in-class pet insurance plan and way more.
What about you?
Well, this thing comes off my knee today, and I get to swim in a fancy bath. You hear about your ears?
Certainly not. I'm here for my teeth.
Yikes! I can smell lies.
Your best friend deserves the best care, no matter how crazy it is. Get them covered at pumpkin.care or call 1-866-ARF-MEOW.
Why is everyone talking about Navage and nasal irrigation?
I am one who suffers from chronic sinus infection.
You need to clean that crap out of your nose.
Navage is simple. Your nose is the body's air filter, but it's not perfect. Navage is a drug-free way to help flush out allergens, mucus, and germs using powered suction. Join nearly 3 million Navage users so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier.
I love this thing.
It's nice to breathe.
Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
People want to know why the train company responsible for this isn't talking directly to them.
Build trust with a community that doesn't seem to trust anyone.
What is going to happen to us in 20 years?
Derailed. Disaster in East Palestine. For continuing coverage, stay with Scripps News.
All month long, we're celebrating Women's History Month and recognizing the groundbreaking work that women have done in this country. This afternoon, we introduce you to a Mississippi lawmaker who's been on the job now for more than 40 years. Scripps News correspondent Tammy Eswick sat down with State Representative Alice Clark to discuss her legacy as she prepares to step away from office.
We're outside the Mississippi State Capitol in Jackson, Mississippi. Representative Alice Clark says she's written over 1,548 bills. Of course, not all of them making it all the way through to become law. But we spoke to her about the ones that she says she's most proud of.
Applause from lawmakers and others as the first black female lawmaker elected in Mississippi announced it's her last term after almost 4 decades.
Well, I looked at it and I say, well, you've been there for a few years. It's time you give somebody else a chance to represent the people of District 69.
83-year-old Representative Alice Clark has been a champion for women and children's rights in a state known for being on the bottom of most national rankings, from education to infant mortality. Being the first at anything is tough. Clark says she had to fight for some of the most basic things when she arrived at the Capitol in 1985.
The ladies, I want you all to know that before I got here, there wasn't a ladies' room for us. And that, in addition to the other things, I got us a bathroom.
The quick-witted Delta, Mississippi native says she tried to retire earlier, but a young man at church convinced her to stay on the job.
And he told me, Miss Clark, you are representing us well. We appreciate the things that you do, and we will let you know when we're ready for you to. So since nobody ever decided to let me know that they were ready, I decided I better tell myself, girl, it's time that you go home and rest.
She's leaving as Mississippi's longest-serving female legislator in state history. And Clark says this time she's gone for good.
You're always welcome back here, lady. Just always remember that. So thank you for being our friend.
There are two pieces of legislation Clark is most satisfied with. The Born Free program was birthed out of a growing need to address newborns born with addiction issues.
When I first got there, I was working at Jackson Hines Comprehensive Health Center with the WIC program. And while working with the WIC program, I learned that there were so many mothers who were hooked on drugs. So it was my idea that somebody needed to do something to try to help mothers get off of the drugs.
It was one of her first pieces of legislation. The program provides substance abuse treatment and housing, and it's still helping those who are addicted to opioids and other drugs today.
Yes, it is still going strong today, but then we can't tell you where it is because the thing is that we don't want anybody to know where it is but that mother and the children who are living there, because we wouldn't want the people who were feeding them drugs to be able to bring some drugs to the mothers out there.
Decades later, Clark is still surprised by the reactions she gets from people who benefited from the program.
I could be walking down the store someplace and somebody will say, "You helped me. You helped me get off of drugs. You helped save my child."
Another point of pride is helping bring an accelerated learning program to Mississippi schools.
The International Baccalaureate Program is a program for children who do well in school, and when you successfully complete that program, you go to college as a sophomore. That saves the parents $13,000, $15,000. And to me, that's a great thing.
That legislation came in handy for students at Jim Hill High School in Jackson. Clark says some of those recipients have gone on to become medical doctors.
It wasn't easy to get passed. The boys didn't want to pass it, but then after it got passed and they found out all of the beneficiaries of that program, they wanted it in their district. I said, no way, no way.
Clark was born in Yazoo City, known as the gateway to the Delta. She came from humble beginnings. Her parents were sharecroppers. She walked 2 miles to school every morning because the family didn't own a car. She also helped to buy her own school clothes, making $10 a day by picking cotton.
I wanted to pick cotton because if you were not working in the farm, you would be the only one in town.
Most recently, the Alcorn State University graduate was credited with bringing the lottery to Mississippi, helping fund one of the poorest states in the nation. For Clark, her legacy as a lawmaker is simple. She wants it forever tied to the people who achieve success through the legislation she authored, not the laws themselves.
Now, don't think of me just as the lottery lady. Don't think of me just as the Born Free lady. Think of me as somebody who tried to help somebody along the way.
Tammy Eswick, Scripps News, Jackson, Mississippi.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, Double Dutch is helping women feel young again. We're going to take you to Tampa, where women 40 and over are moving their feet to restore their confidence and build community. You're watching Scripps News Live.
Hey there. Hey. Hey there, how are you? I'm with Disabled American Veterans. I was wondering if you had a quick minute to thank America's veterans for their service and sacrifices.
Of course, why not?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Sure.
All right. Hey, well, come on in here. I'm just going to hit record on this.
I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I can't even think of the words to say of how grateful I am.
I just want to tell you guys how much we appreciate it.
But most importantly, I want to thank you for your courage and bravery. Wow. Just thank you.
Someone here who'd like to say something to you.
Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome.
Someone has something they want to say to you.
Goodness.
How's it going?
So I just want to let you know how much you appreciate it. How much you appreciate it.
I just feel honored for everything you've done.
Thank you for myself. Thank you for everybody.
I get to live every day, in peace because of you.
A lot of people thank us, but we want to take the time to thank you, honestly, for giving back. And when you give to DAV, you are supporting veterans like Dave, myself. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
You can say thank you to our nation's heroes by calling the number on your screen right now and giving your monthly support of only $19.
Say thank you by going to helpdav.org right now and give just $19 a month. When you do, we'll send you this DAV blanket as a thank you and a reminder that you support those who served.
Please call or go online to helpdav.org right now. Your support says thank you to our nation's disabled American veterans.
Some say age is nothing but a number, and a group of women 40 and older are proving that to be true. JJ Burton with Scripps News Tampa shows us how they can still go toe-to-toe with the kids.
Glowing in their black girl magic, full of confidence and swag. These ladies came to Clearwater Beach to slay and to prove that Double Dutch isn't just for kids or teenagers.
This is what we do.
Look at them, and these women are 40 and older, and this is Gucci. She's 56. Yes, she is double dutching and running at the same time.
When I turned 50, I was led to run a marathon, and now I just use jumping rope and running as a way to continue doing that.
And these ladies are part of the 40-plus Double Dutch Club. Best friends Pamela Robinson and Katrina Dyer-Taylor started the club back in 2016 in Chicago.
I was going through a really difficult period in my life, and I was in search of a happy place.
They invited some friends to join them, and then the club quickly grew. Now they have thousands of members across the country and chapters in Germany, Canada, and Israel. The purpose is to help women spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally.
It was a joy to see that there were women my age jumping rope.
Sharina Alexander started the Tampa group when she moved here 2 years ago, and now they have about 30 members.
It has really improved my ability to be more agile. I feel younger.
And they also pride themselves on being able to teach anyone how to double dutch in less than a minute. And I witnessed them do it. Check this out. She says this was her very first time doing this, ever.
We are women over 40, and God has led us to bring joy to women through Double Dutch. And so that's what we do.
I'm JJ Burton for Scripps News.
Did they say that they can teach people how to do double dutch in less than a minute?